Salve Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. While the crowd was pressing in on Jesus and listening to the word of God, he was standing by the lake of Gennesaret. He saw two boats there alongside the lake. The fishermen had disembarked and were washing their nets. Getting into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, he asked him to put out ashore a short distance from the shore. Then he sat down and taught the crowds from the boat. After he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into deeper water and lower your nets for a catch." Simon said in reply, "Master, we have worked hard all night and have caught nothing. But at your command, I will lower the nets." When they had done this, they caught a great number of fish, and their nets were tearing. They signaled to their partners in the other boat to come and help them. They came and filled both boats, so that the boats were in danger of sinking. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at the knees of Jesus and said, "Depart from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." For astonishment at the catch of fish they had made seized him and all those with him, and likewise James and John, the sons of Zebedee, who were partners of Simon. And Jesus said to Simon, "Do not be afraid. From now on you will be catching men." When they brought their boats to the shore, they left everything and followed him. The Gospel of the Lord. This is a great moment of change for Simon Peter. He undergoes a very dramatic conversion here. And it's interesting how it begins by, to use the phrase, Jesus compels him to go out of his depth, go to deeper water. And sometimes just before a transition in our life that leads us to a deeper relationship with Jesus, we're plunged underneath and it seems like it's not good. Go into deeper water. And so what happens here is what St. Paul is talking about in our first reading from Colossians. Peter, going out into the deeper water, begins to get stirred, and his mind is starting to be set free and open, and he's starting to see Jesus, and he's starting to see him working in his life. And then with the catch of the fish, he comes to a realization of something very profound. He realizes that he's a sinner. And I don't care how far along you've gone in your life of faith, there is no end to discovering the imperfections in us, especially spiritually, until we've probably passed through the fires of purgatory and pure white can now stand before the throne of the Lamb. And so Peter has to experience this humility of being conscious of his sin. And this is the part that gets us. No one wants to be conscious of our sin, huh? We don't want to see that. We don't want to think that we're not good enough. And yet Jesus does not reveal sin to make us feel not good enough. It would be like a baseball pitcher who has great success, and one day the coach says, there's a tiny flaw in your throw. It's that movement of the arm, just so. It's a tiny flaw. Let me work with that with you. And probably this $20 million pitcher is saying to himself, who does this guy think he is? And then before you know it, his speed increases, and his performance at the games is at the great profit for his team, because he humiliated himself to see that little thing that made all the difference in the world. And here's Peter. This morning I happened to read the text of the scriptures in French, and there is a really funny little detail about this passage. The word for fisherman and the word for sinner are spelt exactly the same way, except for the accent over the first E. The accent over the first E for one of them it's called the accent circumflex. It's like the little hat over the E. And then you have the accent aigu over that's the accent that goes to the right. Okay? And so the fisherman has the accent circumflex. It's like a little, it's almost, when you think of it, it's almost like a little house. It's like, this is the guy who's in the house of God. And then the sinner is the accent grave, that's somebody who's going to skew a little bit. But the word is virtually the same. And as I was pondering that, the accent that made all the difference in the life of Peter was Jesus. But Peter was also willing to humble himself to receive that slight correction from Jesus.
Regina Celi, letare, alleluia, qui